Um, okay, hello fourth year students. Today we are going to talk about the syntactic definition of the sentence elements. Um, in order to define sentence elements syntactically, we need to answer three important questions. And in fact, the answers for these three questions are going to make for us a complete definition for any sentence pattern we want to define. So the questions are the following. Number one, what is the form of this element? Which means that which part of a speech that usually takes the position of this element, and are we going to find this part of a speech in one form or different forms? Then we need to answer question number two, which is related to the place, the position in which such an element usually appears in. Does it appear in one particular position, or can we call it that it is a mobile element? That's to say, it can appear in different positions. And number three, we need to mention any specific feature that may help us define, distinguish, or identify this element from the other sentence elements. Okay, so as we said that from the answers that we are going to make for these three questions, we are going to have a complete definition for the syntactic for the complete syntactic definition for any sentence element we would like to define. We start with the first sentence element, which is the subject. Concerning question number one, which is related to the form of the subject, we can say that usually the subject should be the part of speech that takes the position of the subject is usually the noun. But are we going to have this noun appearing in one form or different forms? Of course, the noun can appear as a simple noun, a proper noun, a subjective pronoun, and you know what are the subjective pronouns. They are the he, she, it, they, we, I, we, okay, you. These are the subjective pronouns that can appear in the position of the subject. Also, the subject can appear in the form of a noun phrase or a clause with a nominal function. And here the clause, we have to focus on this. The clause should have a nominal function because, as we said, that it is the noun that should take the position of the subject. But where is the position of the subject? Where does the subject appear in the sentence? In fact, the subject appears at the beginning of the sentence initially before the verb. This is if we are talking about normal and simple statements. But if we change these statements or simple sentences, simple clauses into questions, here the verb is going to appear after the operator. And what is the operator? The operator is the auxiliary that we are going to use to make or to change a sentence from a statement into a question, whether it is a WH question or a yes/no question. Finally, the subject has to have both number and gender agreement or concord with its verb. If we examine these sentences or these examples, we can say that the window is open and the windows are open. You see that here the window and the windows are the subjects. Their forms, they appear in the form of a noun phrase. They appear initially before the verb is a verb. Their verbs is and are. And you can see that there is an agreement in number between the subject and the verb. The window is singular, so the verb its verb is, while the windows is a plural, so the verb that should be used with it is are. If we look at the question, did you open the window? Here you see that the subject is you, comes in the form of a subjective pronoun you, and it appears after the operator, which is did. Did here is an operator because we use it to change the statement into a question. So the original one was I opened the window. So the question, the yes no question is going to be, did you open the window? Or we can change it into a WH question by saying, what did you open? Okay. Finally, we have the sentence, what you said was unacceptable. The subject here is all the unit that is called a clause, what you said. And in order to differentiate a clause from a phrase, a clause has a verb while a phrase does not have a verb. So here, since we have a verb here, so it is a clause. What you said is a clause. What type of a clause is it? It is a nominal clause because it comes in the beginning, in the position of the subject, initially in the sentence before the verb. And also it has agreement with its verb. Usually we deal with the clauses as singular units. That's why their verb should be singular. So from answering the previous three questions, we have come into we have come into a complete syntactic definition for the verb, for the subject, sorry, concerning and in which we mention or we refer to its form, its position, and the specific feature that it can help us identify the subject from other elements in the sentence, which is that the concord that it should have with its verb. Number two, the direct object. And like the subject, the direct object should also be a noun. Okay, again, the noun that takes the position of the direct object can appear in the form of a simple noun, simple proper noun, as an objective pronoun, and the objective pronouns are him, her, it, you, us, okay, me, them, or noun phrases, okay, also can appear in the position of the direct object, or again and again clauses with nominal function. The position of the direct object, it usually appears after the subject and its verb, and the specific feature of the direct object is that when we change the sentence into passive, which we call it passive transformation, here it is the object, the direct object, that is going to take the place of the subject. For example, if we examine this sentence, he broke the window, the direct object is a noun phrase, the window. We can replace the window by a pronoun and we can say he broke it, okay? And when we change the sentence into passive, we can say the window was broken. So when we delete the subject he, the direct object, which is the window, takes the place of the subject, okay? And as you see, whether the direct object we have here, whether it is the window or it, comes in the sentence or appears in the sentence after the subject and its verb. If we examine the last sentence, which is he saw what happened last night, the direct object here is what happened last night. Again, it is a clause, and here the direct object comes or appears for us in the form of a clause with nominal function. Again, why nominal? Because the position that it takes here is the position of the direct object. Number three, the indirect object. Again, like the subject and the direct object, the indirect object should also be a noun, either a simple proper noun, an object pronoun, a noun phrase, or a clause. Okay. Where does the indirect object appear in the sentence? It appears exactly after the subject and the verb and before the direct object. This is very important. The indirect object all the times appears before the direct one, the direct object. In terms of the features that distinguishes the in terms of the features that distinguish the indirect object from other sentence elements, in fact there are two. The first one is that the indirect object can be changed into or transformed into a prepositional phrase, and we can change the position of the prepositional phrase to be to the end of the sentence. Okay, also in passive transformation, we can after we delete the subject, we can also use the indirect object to be or to take the place of the subject. So, for example, I gave the poor a penny. The indirect object here is the poor. It comes in the form of whatever noun phrase. It appears in the sentence after the subject I and the verb gave and before the direct object a penny. It can be changed or transformed into a prepositional phrase and postposed or delayed to the end of the sentence. We can say I gave a penny to the poor, and when we can change the sentence into passive, and we can here the indirect object can be used instead of the subject. So we can say the poor was given a penny. The fourth element that we need also to define syntactically is the complement. And you remember that the complement appears for us in two forms in the 7 sentence patterns we studied. These forms are the subject complement and the object complement. So what is the form? If we want to answer the first question concerning the form of the complement, we say that the complement can either be a noun phrase or adjective phrase or a clause with a nominal function. In terms of the position of the complement, the subject complement usually appears after the subject and the intensive verb, while the object complement, it appears after the direct object. Any specific features for the complement, whether subject complement or object complement? Yes, they have specific features. Number one, they have co-referential relation with the noun they complement, which means that they both refer to the same thing or the same person. So the subject complement is related to the subject and the object complement is related to the object. In passive transformation, especially when we are talking about the object complement, we cannot use the object complement to take the place of the subject, because we know that according to the rules of changing sentences from active into passive, it is only the object that can take the place of the deleted subject. So very, very simple sentences we can use to explain this. We can say he is a teacher. A teacher here as the subject complement comes in the form of a noun phrase, a teacher, and it is subject complement. Why? Because it complements the meaning of he. Who is he? What is he? He's a teacher. So and who is the teacher? It is he. So here both of teacher and he are related. The same thing when we say she seems unhappy. Unhappy here is a subject complement that comes in the form of an adjective. It appears after the subject and the intensive verb seem. They made him president. They made him president here. Here we have an object complement, which is a president. It complements the direct object him. That's why it appears after the direct object. Both of the object him and president, they refer to the same person, so that's why we say that they have co-referential relation with each other. As for this sentence, they made him president, we can change it into passive, because in this sentence we have a transitive verb that is followed by a direct object. So how many forms that we are going to have in the passive? In fact, it is only one, because we have only one direct object, one object, which is the direct object him, while president cannot be used to change the sentence into the passive. So the only form that we are going to have for this sentence in the passive is he was made president. Finally, we are going to talk about the adverbial. And according to form, the adverbial can appear in the form of an adverb phrase, adverbial clause, noun phrase, or prepositional phrase. According to its position in the sentence, usually the adverbial is described as being a mobile element. And do we mean by a mobile element? It means that this element, that's to say the adverbial, is capable of occurring in more than one position in the clause, as we are going to see from the examples. Any specific feature for the adverbial? Yeah, it is generally optional. That's to say, it can be deleted from the sentence, removed from the sentence without affecting its meaning, but except the adverbial or adverbial place that we saw in patterns number 1 and 4. For example, I saw him this morning. This morning is the adverbial here. It is referring to time. It comes in the form of a noun phrase, and I put it here, as you see, between two brackets to say that it is an optional element, which means that I can remove it, I can delete it from the sentence without affecting the complete idea that I may have in the sentence. So I can say I saw him without this morning. When we move to sentence number 2, we were at school, we are going to see something different. The adverbial here is at school. It is an adverb of a place, okay, and here at school is an obligatory element, cannot be deleted from the sentence because this sentence belongs, as we said, to pattern number 1. Sentence number 3, sometimes she sings beautifully. We have here two adverbials, sometimes and beautifully, and you see here they are put between two brackets to say that they are optional, which means they can be deleted. I can say the sentence only with the subject and the verb she sings, or she sings beautifully, or or she sometimes, or sometimes she sings, okay, with one of them only. It is not necessarily that I use both of them. And according to their position, they are mobile elements, which means that they may change their positions. So for instance, if we take the adverb sometimes, here it appears at the beginning of the sentence, but we can say it also in the middle. I can say she sometimes sings, or she sings sometimes. In terms of beautifully also, I can say she beautifully sings. So you see here, both of them can change their position. Finally, when we have the sentence number 4, which is that when you finish homework, you may leave. The adverb here comes in the form of a clause starting with when, so it refers to time. It is an adverbial clause of time. Again, this element, or this clause, this adverbial clause of time is optional. Optional. It can be deleted. I can say you may leave, okay, and still my sentence has meaning. And also it is a mobile element, which means that it can change its position. Here I use it here at the beginning of the sentence, and at the same time also I can say the sentence and put this adverbial clause at the end. I can say you may leave when you finish homework. So with this, we have finished dealing with the syntactic definitions of the sentence elements. And as I said, that we can make a simple syntactic definition for these 5 important sentence elements by answering 3 essential questions. I hope that everything that is explained here is clear for you. Please, if you have any question, you can put your questions on the Google Classroom, and I'm going to be so glad to answer them. Thank you.